Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township Mapleton Council meeting for Tuesday, November 11th. This is Remembrance Day, and we are so grateful for all of the men and women who sacrificed their lives many, many years ago so we could have our freedom. And, you know, we wouldn't be sitting around this table as a council if we didn't have people that sacrificed themselves so we can have meetings like this. So be very grateful, and today is Remembrance Day. We think back to those that sacrificed and those that did not come back to their families, and those that came back to their families, some whole and some not so well either physically or mentally, but we certainly appreciate all of their efforts. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting order, and please rise if you can for O Canada. I said it before, but I'll say it again. I'm really so grateful that we have the Board family doing the O Canada. Such a great family and do that for our council, and so appreciative. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, confirmation of minutes then. Moved by Councillor Woodham, second by Councillor Ottens, that the minutes of the Township Mapleton Council meeting held on October 28th, 2025 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Any comments? All in favor? It's carried. So we have matters under the Planning Act. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act to hear comments from the public and agencies and give consideration to application ZBA 2025-10 for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Subject lands are 7291 Third Line, Part Lot 18, Concession 3, and the purpose and effect is to rezone the subject lands to allow limited meat processing activities. The property is zoned unserviced residential, with the exception to allow a barn, which does not permit meat processing uses. The owners are proposing to utilize an existing 55.7 meters squared or 600 foot squared building on the subject property to custom butcher and package meat, including some retail sales. Mr. Clerk, statutory requirements.
Thank you, sir. Staff can confirm that property owners, Mapleton staff, and agencies were provided with the required notice before October 21st. There is a comment summary in the planning report. On-site postings were completed on time, and there are County of Wellington comments from Ali Gorman and Curtis Marshall attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Our planner, Linda Redmond.
Thank you, Mayor. So this application is located in the hamlet of Yatton, and under that designation, limited commercial uses are permitted. It's an appropriate location for stores and smaller services like this. The applicant is proposing to utilize an existing structure on his property. It's 600 square feet. He will be renovating it to convert it for this use. My understanding is it's just butchering of meat and packaging and then some retail sales. The property currently has a site-specific exemption on it to allow a horse or two for the, I think it was at the time for the primary mode of transportation. I'm not entirely sure if that's still a requirement with the current owner, and if it's not, then we could have it removed, which would be preferable. I will say that I did receive a phone call from an individual that lives adjacent to, or across the road, I believe, from the applicant, and she did raise some concerns with me with respect to, she wasn't necessarily opposed to the proposed use. She was concerned with some activities that may occur as part of that use, and wanted some reassurances from the applicant that there wouldn't be, if there was going to be smoking of meat, that it, you know, how much, like not every day. I guess there's an issue sometimes where there's smoked meat happening in the area, and it's quite regular, so she was concerned that that was going to occur as part of this business. She was also concerned with what's going to happen with the remnants, the garbage, the whatever's not used as part of the meat. Where is that going to go? How is that going to be removed from the property? That I guess there's a concern too that in that area sometimes people will burn their garbage, so she wanted to ensure that that wasn't going to happen on this property. She also just wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be any slaughtering, so I reassured her that this use specifically would not be allowed to slaughter, that's a permitted use in special circumstances, and this would, the zoning would actually indicate that the meat could not be slaughtered on site. So I just identified those concerns. She did send an email, followed up with an email on it, so she didn't know if she was going to be here tonight, so I said I would raise that and have the applicant speak to it if they could.
Thank you, Linda. Cleon Martin, to speak, like to speak on behalf?
I am Cleon Brubaker, and I don't quite remember all of it. The number one thing was the smoking, the smoked meat she was concerned about. Is that correct? And that's, I don't have a license for that. I'm not planning to do that. And as well as the remnants are getting picked up by Darling Rendering, like what we know as Rossi. The roll bins are stored inside, they're in coolers. She'll never see any of that. And was there another thing?
Through you, Mayor, the other question was just the burning of garbage.
And as well as burning garbage. I don't burn garbage there, so.
Just state your name, please, for the record.
It's Cleon Brubaker.
Brubaker, thank you. Questions? So we'll hear the comments for those in attendance. We'll first hear those in support of the zoning amendment, and then we'll hear those in opposed. So anybody here wishing to speak in for the amendment? Anybody here in opposition of the amendment? Clerk Wheeler has 3 submissions to read out loud.
Thank you, sir. We had a submission from Lisa Molinar. She's a homeowner in Yatton, and she had some concerns. She writes, "I don't feel this is an appropriate business to start in town with homes nearby. A custom butcher building would be much more appropriate, away from existing homes with appropriate space for customer parking and commercial vehicles. Smells. Are they going to be making summer sausage and smoking? remnants and products, how will this be handled? If not properly handled, will attract unwanted wildlife? How often is this going to be cleaned up? Driveway and parking. The other businesses within Yatton all have parking on their property for delivery staff and customers. Will this location be able to provide space? The third can be very busy with traffic, including children walking to and from school, buggies, people biking, large farm equipment that take more than their lane traffic, along with cars and transport trucks. If road parking is allowed, this will create a safety hazard. We already have issues with speed and failure to stop. Building. The proposed building is a horse barn. Can this building be properly turned into a commercial building for food use? Water and septic. Does this building have either? How much water will they need? Can Yatton support that much water from our ground source? Thank you very much for taking all these concerns and thoughts into consideration. I appreciate the time you took to read my email. We had another submission from Dave Shantz, who I believe owns Poultry Lead and Specialist. He says, hi. Dave Shantz, 6554 Yatton Side Road. Regarding the zoning application, I would like to say that Christine and myself have no issues with this being accepted, and we welcome the small meat shop to Yatton. That's fine, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, council, any questions that you have? Councillor Wood, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Davidson, I believe it'll probably be a question to the applicant then. I visited your site this afternoon. I wanted to, just to see what the shop looked like. And I, too, was wondering of parking. It's a very narrow driveway that goes in. I was glad to hear that it's not a slaughterhouse, because that was my one question, too, because I thought, how would you ever get all those trucks in? Are you planning to do some sort of parking? Because the shoulder of that road is not wide by any means, and yes, there's the four-way stop, but I think I even noticed that's not really adhered to too much at that time too. So parking was a question that I did have. And then I think my second question will be back to the planner, so I'll start with that.
So the driveway, yeah, it is narrow there, but we plan to enlarge it to in front of that building, where there's grass now, we'll just use that.
Okay.
Sorry, you're adding another driveway or just moving that one? Like what, I got confused in your answer.
Just, we're keeping the driveway, but just moving, just adding parking basically.
Having a parking spot, okay, thank you. Councilor Woodham?
Thank you. And then I think my second question, I'm not sure, to Planner Linda Redman. I was happy to hear that it's not slaughtering. So it's probably the meat is coming, and you're butchering it, wrapping it, and doing some retail. What about all the cleaning? Like a facility like that, there still will be some blood. There still will be, I'd imagine, health will be in there, and they'd have to do strict cleaning. Will a building permit activate whether the septic can handle the blood being going in? Like, is that just going in our normal septic area?
Oh, there we go. They will need a building permit. I think I'm going to ask the CBO to address what the requirements of that will be. But they have to upgrade the building to make it for retail use and whatever the use is going to be. And Mike can address the septic.
Mike Walsh?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, the building permit process will include all health facilities that are required, as well as septic system upgrades if required.
Councilor Woodham? And other questions from council? Councilor Martin? Go ahead. Linda.
Sorry, I meant to add to Councillor Woodham's comments about the driveway and what have you. This application, if they receive approval, they will have to go through a site plan approval process, whether it's a minor amendment or not, but either way, they have to go through site plan approval, and they will be required to provide parking on site for whatever would be required for a 600 square foot building. So it might only be like 1 or 2 spaces, but they will have to provide it appropriately on their own property.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The planner had actually referenced it earlier about this particular property having that exception for the barn. I just want to be perfectly clear with Mr. Brubaker, I don't suppose he needs that anymore, because that's where the butcher shop's going to be going, so we can probably address that as part of this application as well, if the applicant's on board with that. But otherwise, I like it. I think it's a great little spot for a business like this. Boutique-y butcher shop, I'm not sure how you're going to flavor it, but I think it puts Yatton on the map for all the right purposes, so.
Thank you. Anything further? Go to Councillor Woodham.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. So I would just like some clarification, because there's 2 buildings. There is the barn, and then there's the 600 square foot facility. I was under the understanding the facility is going in the 600 square foot. So the barn will still be there, correct? And will it be housing horses?
The 600 square foot building and the horse barn is the same thing. The building you saw behind there is strictly empty storage, pretty much, so. No, they're not attached. There's 2 buildings, yes. But you're talking about the horse barn and the 600, that's the same, you're talking about the same building.
So the building out to the front is the horse barn, and the building out to the back is a storage barn or a storage shed?
Yes, that's right. It's nothing to do with the business at this point.
And what size is the storage shed?
30 by 60, 40 by 60, something like that.
Thank you for clarifying that. So the first building will be your meat processing, where the horse barn is actually right now. The second building that I see is just your storage.
Yes, that's right.
Planner Redmond, you had said something, Planner Redmond, about removing a building in your comments. Did I mishear you on that?
Thank you, Mayor. No, removing, there's a site-specific exemption currently that allows to have horses on the property. So I wasn't sure if that was something they still required and whether we could remove that.
Thank you for clarification. Anything else from council? All right, the public meeting is now concluded. Thank you for attending the public meeting. So resolution 6.1 is moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Woodham, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information planning report ZBA 2025-10 dated November 11, 2025 regarding part lot 18, concession 3, and this municipally known as 7291 third line. Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the planner need specific direction around the use of that, the exception, or does she have enough to go on based on this conversation? I'm just looking to her for guidance there to make sure we're on the same page.
I was about to ask the same question, so thank you.
I think the fact that the building that's actually being converted to a butcher shop is the building that houses the horse, it's safe to assume that we can remove that exemption off the property. But I'll just confirm it with the applicants, but yeah,
So the resolution as read is fine for your purposes?
yes.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? It's carried. Moving on to delegations, welcome Julie Martin Jensen from Hospice Wellington. Julie, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone in council for having me again. I think it's been a couple years, so some of you may have seen my presentation before. We have changed it a little bit to make it prettier, I guess, but the message is still the same, that at Hospice Wellington, this is our 45th anniversary this year, so we've been in the community since 1980. 15 years ago, the 10-bed residence facility was built. So prior to that, for 30 years, we have still been in the community, and we continue to be in the community. And since our residence was built 15 years ago, I think people got away from knowing that we are there to support people in the community and in their homes. And I still hear all the time, oh, I didn't know you guys did that. I thought you were just end of life. I thought you were just that 10-bed facility in Guelph. So hopefully, for those of you who haven't heard this before, I'm hoping to just give you a whole idea of our model of care and who we do serve and support in the community. So a little bit about us. Next one. Sorry, Carl, I'm supposed to say next slide. A little bit about us is when it did start 45 years ago, it was a group of community members that really felt strongly that there wasn't a lot of supports for end of life. So they actually started hospice. So we are basically a gift to the community from the community, and we couldn't be here if we didn't have community support. So at hospice, we say your story matters, and that's really important to us, that we treat each person individually. They're valued, and their journey is what matters to us, so we're there to support them. We are a charitable organization. We do get funding from the ministry, but that's only about 40, maybe 42%, 45 at max, and so the rest of the funding that we get for hospice to do community outreach and community programming is all community driven, so donations, fundraisers, estate people leave some estate planning. How this role that I'm doing, the outreach coordinator, 4 years ago, actually almost 5 years ago now, it was a pilot project. So a couple named Clara and Oscar Bookbinder, who both passed away in our hospice residence, left money, $250,000, to Hospice Wellington specifically to bring our supports and services out into Wellington County specifically. So after 3 years, they thought we were doing a good job, so they kept me on. But we are still supporting the community as best we can. So we'll go to the next one. So we do obviously have vision, values, and our mission, but our values are based on kindness, collaboration, and inclusion, and we try to support everyone with that value. So next slide. So our model of care, we'll go to the next slide. So this is our new sort of model of care to sort of encompass and incorporate all that we do in the community so that people can see that even though maybe we're supporting you because you have a palliative diagnosis, we can support you through many different venues on our model of care. So starting with the community engagement, and I'm just going to go through each of these icons a little bit. So the community engagement is basically what I'm doing here today is the education about what we do at hospice. It's about providing workshops in the community, doing partnerships. So we have partnered with the Senior Center for Excellence here in town, and we offer workshops through them for the seniors groups. Just on, some of it's for caregivers, some of it's bereavement support. And then our other part of the model is our palliative care. So I'll go through the next slides because it kind of breaks it down. So the next slide. So what we offer for people that have that end-of-life diagnosis, so we really want to be there early on in their diagnosis, and this is where we're trying to work with the doctors and the social workers and people in the community and the healthcare to say, hey, you know what, just because they've been given this diagnosis, they're not at end of life right now, but we can still support you in your home, in your community. We offer a palliative day program, and the criteria, I guess you would call it, is that they have to be prognosis of 18 months or less. What we're discovering in these day and ages is doctors do not like to give prognoses anymore, so we always say, would you be surprised if they are still here in 2 years? And if that's the case, then we will support the person plus their family members, and we continue that care after the person has passed. But we have a palliative day program that runs every Wednesday. We offer one-on-one supports for the person, and that can look different for everyone. We had a gentleman in Elora who just wanted a volunteer to take him to play snooker. So we found a volunteer. We found the Elora Legion had pool tables. So that's what we were able to offer for that person. We have other people that it looks different for each person, what that one-on-one looks like. If they can't leave the house or get out of bed because they're more bedbound, we will provide companionship at bedside in their own home. And it can be from whatever they want to do, leaving their legacy. We've had our volunteers help finish quilts, writing their story down for them so their family has it. We even had our music therapist record a song with a person that they wrote the song together. So we'll do things like that. And then we also have a lot of wellness supports, and I'll go through all of those because they're for every person that we are supporting. So next. So this is our residential facility that we have 10 beds there. So we do provide end-of-life support. So normally when people come to our 10-bed facility, they have that prognosis of possibly 3 months or less. Some people come and are only there for a matter of hours. Some people are there past the 3 months. It just depends. And sometimes people come there and say, wow, I really wish I would have come earlier on. And the families feel very welcomed. They're supported as well while they're in hospice residence. We have our music therapist, our psychosocial spiritual coordinator. They work up on the floor with the families. We have volunteers that will sit bedside so that nobody dies alone. So we call it our vigil. And it is a very warm and home-like setting, and anybody can stay there, stay overnight in the room. There's pull-out beds. It's a very safe, inviting place, and anybody can come for a tour at any time if you just want to see what it's like. And then next slide. So we also support the caregivers, like I said, so they have to be caring for someone who has that less than 2 years prognosis. But they also provide one-to-one support. They are able to use any of our wellness programs. And then we do have a lot of, part of my role is to anyone who wants one-on-one support with advanced care planning or getting your documents together. That's another service that I'll come to the home and just go through sort of what they're looking for, what do they still need. I'll give them information. So it's kind of a one-time sort of support that we do for advanced care planning, but we also provide a lot of workshops on advanced care planning and getting your documents together. We have some caregiver workshops about self-care and wellness, just for anyone in the community. They don't have to be a registered client of hospice. Next slide. So our wellness that's available to anyone that's a registered client, this is Catherine, our music therapist, but we have music therapy in the residence. She does a community program. She's in Elma once every other month at the church in Elma that she runs a music therapy group there. We have art therapy, gentle yoga, therapeutic touch and Reiki, and we also have massage therapy that we provide for anyone that's using our supports. Next slide. So what we offer for people who have lost a loved one, that are grieving or bereaved, we have one-to-one support. And we have right now almost 200 clients that we are supporting with grief and loss. So we have a couple programs that we run, a spousal loss group and just a regular adult loss support group, and we try to kind of do them in the community as best we can. We just ran one out of the Arthur Library. We had a couple in Mount Forest. We have a walking group up in Mount Forest that people can attend that are grieving. We have support workshops that we do, so we're just doing one on, we call it Surviving the Holidays, but it's for caregivers and people who are grieving. The wellness supports, again, that anyone can use. And we also will have, we have a horticulturalist that, she's a therapist that we've partnered with through the Enabling Gardens in Guelph, and she comes in quite a bit to do workshops on horticultural and grief and loss. We also will offer pet loss sessions through the SPCA, and then we'll do, every now and then we'll change it up and do a writing or journal workshop for people to just write their story or write things down. So next. So then this is Pat, she is our executive director. So what we offer in the community, that in community engagement again, is we have a lending library. I just gave you all a nice little booklet called The Guide for End of Life Planning and Support, and I'm happy to say there are over 5,000 copies of those out in Wellington County alone. This is our second edition, so I'm very proud of that. It's actually, I call it from diagnosis to death kind of book. It gives you ideas on what you need to do, some documents, like there's so many things to do to die. Like it's crazy, you gotta plan so much. So that little booklet was one of the projects that we did when I started, because that was one of the things that we heard people saying in the community was they really didn't know where to start. So that book is a good starting spot. So next. This is Oscar and Clara. This is basically all of where we support, all of Wellington County and Guelph. Next slide. So we have 160 volunteers right now, and every year in the spring and the fall we do volunteer training, and we have 15 people in each group. So we're always expanding our volunteers, but they have a lot of stuff they can choose from, anywhere from event planning to one-on-one supports for people who have a palliative diagnosis, to the caregivers, to people who are grieving. So they do get it. This is, I have to change this because it just changed. It's not 33 hours in total in person, because now there's some online stuff they have to do through Hospice Palliative Care Ontario. But in total, we have quite a few volunteers that we could not do our community work without our wonderful volunteers. Next slide. So again, we are a registered charity. All our programs are at no cost. Even our residence is at no cost to anyone in the community. Everything we do is because of generous donations from the community that allow us to provide these supports at no cost. Next. So our events is one of the ways we do raise money. So what we have coming up now is our Tree of Remembrance. So if anybody wants to drive to Guelph and go to the Stone Road Mall, we have ornaments for sale, and you can put your loved one's name on a card and it goes on a lovely tree. And then we take all those memories and those names, and we are going to do a ceremony in the gardens around Hospice Wellington to spread the ashes after we plant them. And then we do Retro Royale in February. We have a hike for hospice in June and a huge sunflower open. The other thing that we have where we do get a lot of donations, and this year has been absolutely crazy with third-party events. So hospice isn't organizing it. Other people organize the event, and then the money they raise, they give some money back to hospice, which is absolutely wonderful. December 3rd, 2nd, one of those days is Giving Tuesday, whatever the Tuesday is in December. And that money we get for Giving Tuesday, it's a lot of gift cards. That funds our whole kitchen upstairs for the residents and for all the food that we have that we are able to provide for families when they're staying in our residence. So next. So this is an interesting slide that I really liked, because how does hospice make a difference? Well, we served over 240 people in our residence last year, and this year I think it's already more. The number of individuals served in the community through programs that we offer is about 470. The number of community programs that we did were over 2,000, and the volunteer hours that they put in last year was almost 12,000. So that's amazing that we have that great dedication from our volunteers that help us so much with everything. Last slide. So basically, that is it about hospice. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But we do believe that our work is made possible by community, and we are here for the community. We do great work in our residents. Our community programs are absolutely wonderful. I think for the last 5 years, I have learned so much about hospice and about supporting people. And it's just truly amazing, the stories that we hold in our hearts for everybody. So thank you.
Thank
Any
you, Julie.
questions?
That's amazing. You know, it's quite amazing when you look at, you know, what you've just described to us, the programs, the services, the outreach, the residents you have, all of that at no cost. That is the amazing part right there, that all this work, all these people get supported at no cost to them, and that's truly amazing. Really something that you and the organizers, the people that work there should be very proud of to have that. Just keep your mic on, Julie, so, yeah.
I talk loud, so
Yeah.
I seem like I'm yelling all the time.
It's the people on YouTube you want to hear.
Oh, I see. Oh, my God. Yeah, don't to hide my face. Yeah, it is amazing that for 45 years we've managed to be in the community serving people. So the best. But any questions?
Anything from council?
Anything? Just ask
Councilor
me.
Ottens.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. You said it's a 10-bed residence?
Yes.
So what's the is it, I realize people come and go. Is it always full? Is there is there ever a waiting list, or is it sort of like, are there always empty spaces so that when it's needed, people can always go when they want to, or?
Yeah, so a couple things in there. So we do have a waiting list, but we say it's a waiting list, but it's usually, people are put on, so if you had a life-limiting illness, you're at home, and part of your plan is to come to hospice, the Ontario Health at Home will put in a backup referral. So it puts you on the list to, come to hospice when you're ready, which is about, you have to be at 30% of a palliative performance scale, which means you're more bedridden, you're maybe not eating, you're in that last 3 months of life. And Dr. Lund is the palliative doctor in the rural area, so he would be the one to kind of say, yeah, they're ready to go. We are usually always full. Yesterday, we had 3 people pass over the weekend. What's today? Tuesday? So over the weekend, so yesterday there was 3 beds empty, but they were filled right away. So they would have been filled by today. So we're always running at a open, then filled capacity. The average stay, I guess, I think in looking at everything is about 12 days. So this is why I always say it's so important to have those conversations with your family, that if hospice is part of that plan, then to think about that earlier on, and so that you can come there and get that really awesome support through the residents, and that your family can be your family and not the caregivers, and kind of alleviate some of that stress off of the family members. So I hope I answered all of those. Yep. Okay.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Julie. I have 3 questions, pretty quick.
Okay.
Second edition, so if a community member is looking to acquire one of these, where would they find?
I have a whole case in my trunk of my car. We have them at the Family Health Team office, downstairs and upstairs in the doctor's office in town here. I have cases of them at hospice. We have them in pretty much all the Family Health Team offices, so you can go to any of those. Mount Forest Cancer Patient Services has a bunch of them. Libraries will have them. They might still have the older edition, but if they're out, I'm usually going around looking to put them in everywhere. So, but anybody needs them, they can always call me and I can bring you a case. Next question.
I was curious if you have data at all between Guelph residents and County of Wellington residents as far as who accesses both the residents and like community programs?
Right.
Do you have a breakdown on that at all?
I offhand, no, but it's easy enough to get because we do track that in our IA system. So we have a case manager that specifically does rural, so she only does Wellington County. So she has grief clients, people who are palliative and or have a palliative diagnosis, and caregivers. So on her caseload right now, I'm going to say there's probably about 60 in total. Some really awesome stories about people in Wellington County that have we've supported in their home that do end up coming to hospice, which they never wanted to, and they were like, I don't want hospice. It's taken us a little while to get in to see them, but once they met us, met our music therapist, we've then had people come into hospice and actually be so grateful that they met us in the community first. So it made it such a wonderful transition that they weren't afraid to come there. And knew that they would be getting wonderful support. So, yeah, but if you really want that, I can actually get that information for you and send to Mr. Wheeler there to share. But yeah, that's a good question of how much in Guelph specifically and how much from the community or the county. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the last one is kind of just a segue off of your last comment. So do you have a relationship at all directly with Guelph Wellington Paramedic Services as far as
Yes.
direct to hospice? Is that a?
We do.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, Emily Cooper is the paramedic that we work with. They actually came to our residence and did shadowing of our nurses and the staff there to see what we were all about. And they actually, because of the paramedic community team and the palliative team, they will transport someone from home to hospice as well too. So yeah, no, we do have a good relationship with them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I suppose, Councillor Martin, it's something that you have in your other career, that's, you have that liaison?
Yeah, we do, and it's a wonderful thing because a lot of times people who are at end of life aren't looking to go to the hospital, right? They may not be doing well
Yeah.
at home anymore, but they're really not looking for entry into the the hospital system. So as long as they're a registered client and there's bed availability, it can be a wicked cool service just to go directly to hospice. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's something that comes up rather quickly. So it's, especially considering the county and the geography, you know, it can be tricky to get somebody to hospice on
Yeah.
their own. So it can be a nice add, and I'm glad that's something you guys are doing as well.
When I was doing some of the case management, so going into the homes for people, that's one of the first questions I always asked was, did Ontario Health at Home hook you up with the paramedic program? Because to make sure that they had that as a service when they were living at home is really important. They also check on the caregivers as well, so it's really a great program. Yep.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Resolution I have here is moved by Councillor Woodham, second by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information a delegation of Hospice Wellington, Julie Martin Jensen, the outreach coordinator, regarding their model of care, which highlights who they support and illustrates the wide range of services that's provided. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We do have another resolution here moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Woodham, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information the slideshow entitled Here for Our Community, Your Story Matters, as submitted and presented by Julie Martin Jensen with Hospice Wellington. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 9.11, which is Reserve and Reserve Fund Framework Update. Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. As noted throughout the budget process, here tonight to present the updated Reserve and Reserve Fund framework for the township. This is obviously part of our broader long-term integrated financial strategy. So as noted previously, there were a couple pieces already brought forward and approved by council this year, the municipal grants policy,
the procurement bylaw, the fees and charges bylaw, and the development charge background study. All of these things are coming together to create a long-term integrated strategy. This is the next piece of that puzzle. So as noted during the budget process, this framework was incorporated within the budget for this year preemptively, hoping that this framework ultimately would be adopted with the policy and bylaw that accompanies it. So I'll get you to go to the next slide, Carl. So as with any piece of the long-term integrated financial strategy, we make sure that it does align with council's approved priorities within the strategic plan, which you're all well aware of as listed on this slide. So we do keep those in mind as we build out the new reserve and reserve fund framework. And you can head to the next slide, Carl. This slide was included within the budget presentation, but our goal in updating this framework, ultimately we started from the point of the existing reserve and reserve fund policy, which was created over 5 years ago now. It did a great job of laying the foundation for what we've brought forward here. We just looked to increase the transparency and have it align better with our capital forecast and the asset management program. So key modifications, we have clear distinction between what would be an operating reserve fund, or in the bylaw we refer to them as special purpose reserves, infrastructure reserves. So those are clearly delineated and separated. A big piece was distributing the existing capital reserve, which historically has been one large number that was drawn upon each year for a variety of capital initiatives. We wanted to separate it out and have significant or individual components of it aligned to the asset management plan and all the asset categories there. So within the updated policy and bylaw, there is a definition for each one. It does outline the sources of funding for it, the uses of funding for it, and the target balance. I will note within the bylaw Schedule A, there is an error in the first reserve fund. It does say the target balance for our core infrastructure reserve is $5 million. That's actually $10 million. That's a typo within it. Everywhere else in this report and everywhere it's a $10 million target. So just making sure that if it is ultimately adopted, we'll update that schedule through the clerk. Next slide, please. So two components tonight. One is the policy itself, the reserve and reserve fund management policy, the second one being the bylaw. So the policy outlines framework that we put in place for establishing and maintaining the reserves and reserve funds. Also talks about how we will manage them and any inter-fund borrowing that can happen, the rules around that. Clearly outlines the responsibilities of yourselves as council, our CAO, and myself as the CFO treasurer. And finally, it grants the authority, as the previous policy did, to subdivide those reserves and reserve funds into separate components that make it simplify the process of accounting for it and managing it. That's not really a new item. Those are all kind of carried forward within the policy. So the framework that we've put together has three distinct categories of reserves and reserve funds. The first category is for infrastructure renewal. Essentially, this is the capital reserve that we historically have had. We're now separating it out into several different infrastructure reserves specifically built to pay for our capital program needs on an annual basis. The growth-related reserve funds, most of these are mandated by legislation to support growth, so development charges, which are approved through the DC background study, as well as the building permit reserve, which is also governed by legislation. Cash in lieu of parkland is in there as well. And then we do have a new reserve being established that's called the Affordable Housing Reserve, which we can get into details on in a bit. And then the third category are special purpose reserves. So these funds are intended for various operating lines that can deviate year over year due to unforeseen items. We don't want those to impact the tax levy requirements or impact our annual surplus that gets transferred into infrastructure reserves. So those are more of a stabilization piece, again, not deviating from previous practice, just clearer definitions and standardization. The next slide. So this slide, the majority of the descriptions are within the bylaw. I'm not going to read which each what each reserve is for. That's all in there, but this is more of a graphic to show you the targets we're recommending. For infrastructure renewal reserve funds on aggregate, we're at about 77, around just under 80% of where we want to be. That's why each year we're gradually increasing the amount that we transfer into infrastructure reserve funds by an inflationary amount. Ultimately, we want to get up to have enough funds within each of those reserve funds to sustain our capital program. Right now, we're not quite there, but we are. This is a very, very fortunate position to be in. A lot of municipalities aren't in this state when it comes to infrastructure renewal reserve funds. And the next slide, Carl. And then this is also the special purpose reserve funds. So a number of them you'll see are already at or have exceeded what would be the target balance for them. So that's where the redistribution has come in to cap them at what the target balance is, and then reallocate the funds that are being transferred to other special purpose reserve funds. But again, in a pretty solid position here to mitigate any risk we would have should there be unforeseen circumstances that come about in any of those areas. The last slide, Carl. So key takeaways from the work we did here. It's a short presentation, but it definitely wasn't a short amount of work putting this together. We did want to provide additional clarity, both for you as decision makers on council, but also for the public to know every dollar that we have sitting in these bank accounts has a specified purpose. We're not sitting on money for no reason. It's money that's needed. We feel it's much more transparent and clear. We do have a commitment in there that we will report annually and then post it on our website too, of the status of all of those reserve funds and how they're trending towards the targets. Aman's not here tonight, but she's very happy with, and her input was great in here on getting us to align with the asset management program, putting money away for specific needs over the long term. It matches with our capital forecast, the bottom funding areas, and then the biggest piece of that is this has zero budget impact. There's no deviation from what we have been putting into reserves, what we've been planning to put into reserves over the next number of years in our multi-year forecast. It's just a clearer way of understanding it, and also makes it much more simplified to us identify the different buckets that funds are coming from. So we're here to answer any, I did say I'd touch on the affordable housing reserve. So that's the main new one in there. As council's aware and is in the public realm through the county, there are funds that are available to each of the lower tier municipalities within the county, up to $1 million to support housing initiatives and affordable housing. This is somewhat premature bringing this actual reserve fund in, but it is a home for if that $1 million does come to Mapleton, that those funds could go in. Before that time, though, we would bring forward a policy on how affordable housing reserves could be used, how we could have funds come into that type of reserve. That policy isn't part of this. Essentially, this reserve fund bylaw is open right now, and we thought it's the right time to at least set up that reserve. It has zero target balance. It has zero confirmed contributions, but it's there if and when the opportunity comes about. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions from council.
Thank you. The resolution I have here for council is moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information Finance Report FIN 2025-30, Reserve and Reserve Fund Framework Update, that council approve the Reserve Fund Management Policy as presented, and further that council consider approval of the draft Reserve and Reserve Fund bylaw.
Excuse me, Mayor, or through you, Clerk, can that last piece just say as amended, just because that reserve fund bylaw is going to have a change in it from 5 million to 10 million? Is that
So are you talking
the very last sentence that you said?
the further that council consider approval of the draft Reserve and Reserve Fund bylaw
As amended.
as amended?
Yep.
Council Woodham, Council Ottens, okay with that change? Thank you. I'll open it up for questions then. Go ahead, Councilor Ottens.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Could you, this would be to our Patrick, could you maybe expand on the one called Strategic Initiatives Reserves? What's an example of what would fall into that category?
Sure. Thank you. And I'm Jenny's Patrick, not your Patrick, but that's okay. You said our Patrick. Through you, Mayor Davidson, the Strategic Initiatives Reserve essentially was established. In recent years, there's a number of studies that are undertaken partway through the year, initiatives that come forward that kind of align with the strategic plan. So through the office of the CAO or other departments, we may have to engage consultants to undertake some work. This has traditionally been an unbudgeted item that would just eat into whatever the annual surplus would be, wasn't budgeted for. So this reserve fund allows for mid-year, if something were to come forward that council deems a strategic priority that hasn't been budgeted for, and we'd want to engage the services of an external party, we would have funds available to do so. So there's a number of consultants that you've seen used in the past that have come through. This would cover those costs and have funds set aside for them.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, maybe just more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the transparency that this gives the public. Seeing where everything's going to go in and come out of, I think is very important for us to be able to explain things on a more level field.
Further questions? Seeing none? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And there's a second resolution here as well. Moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Woodham. Township of Mapleton Council received for information the slide deck entitled Long-Term Integrated Financial Strategy, Reserve and Reserve Fund Framework as presented by Director of Finance Patrick Kelly, CFO. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 9.12, which is Q3 financial update. Rachel, you doing this one?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just providing council with our third quarter update on the operating and capital programs as of September 30th, 2025. Starting with the operating program, the attached Q3 operating report compares the departmental and functional results versus the budget. As shown in the report, the year-to-date surplus is approximately $685,000 as compared to a year-to-date surplus in 2024 of $1.24 million. Just wanted to note that the primary reason for this significant year-over-year change is due to the timing of the capital funding adjustments. So in 2024, the majority of those capital funding adjustments were done at the end of the year, whereas in 2025, we've been doing them throughout the year. Just to present a more accurate picture of where the operating and capital programs are at. Another note is you might recall in Q2 we were showing a small deficit just due to some timing differences between revenues and expenses that create a mismatch. So it's evident that these are balancing out as the year progresses. We're no longer in a deficit position. There are still some timing differences that exist, but overall we'd expect that the operating program will be within budget by the end of 2025. And then on to the capital program. Similar to operating, we prepared a report to outline the spending of each of our capital projects as compared to the funding available. As noted in previous meetings, we are no longer reporting on the water wastewater projects that fall under Northern Maple Utilities, Inc., so those have been excluded here. And then as the report shows, approximately $2.7 million in spending on capital projects have occurred. That represents about 49% of the total funding available of $4.8 million. And we've also included in the report just some commentary on the status of each project. And then we have staff here tonight to answer any questions that council may have on the operating or the capital programs.
Thank you, Rachel. Resolution moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid, that Township Mapleton Council received for information Finance Report FIN 2025-31 regarding Q3 operating and capital program updates. Questions from council? Councillor Woodham.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Davidson. Probably question to Rachel then. Just when I was looking over, wondering, I noticed that we have 3 projects that have been deferred to 2026. Mobile data terminal, the roadside mower, and Drayton Rotary Club. Can you just explain why they're being deferred?
And Patrick Kelly.
Sure, I might tackle that one and maybe ask Jamie to jump in as well, or Amy. The first one, the mobile data terminals, you'll probably get a clearer answer. Our next council meeting, Fire Services has a number of reports, I think 4, that'll talk about the entire year with the fire service. That's just one of the projects that they weren't able to accomplish within the current year, though the funds were there for it. It is happening next year. They just didn't want to rush it just to get it in this year, so they're deferring that. The second one, the mower piece, I'll speak to and then hand over Rotary Park to Jamie and Amy, I think. The roadside mower, essentially, the costing on that came in, and we don't have sufficient funds in there to get that completed this year. So the capital budget for next year, you'll see included an additional $16,000 within the capital budget to ensure we get the right product there to meet the service requirement. That's why it's deferred to next year. And then I'll let Jamie and Amy shed a little light on the status of Rotary Park. We did have a good meeting with the club last week, and I'll let them speak to that.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Davison. Yeah, we did have a great meeting last week with the Rotary Club. So a bit of the project has kind of changed direction. We did look at all the finances through Patrick, and Rachel did a great job of finding some of the stuff, because a lot of the finances were done before 22, before I returned. So we were trying to find those monies. Yeah, and we're going to move forward. We do have some donated piece to that park too. So we have the funds, and we're going to come up with a plan with the Rotary Club for 2026, and they're on board to move forward with the construction of some sort of a lookout. We're not sure exactly what it's going to look like, but we'll bring it back to council once we've ironed that out with the Rotary Club and what their expectations are and what ours are. And yeah, I think it's going to be a neat little area down there with the new pumping station with the bathrooms and a bit of a shelter or lookout kind of thing, and a shade over that playground structure and all the new asphalt. It's going to be a really nice area down there, and potentially we do have some money in the capital budget for next year for trail expansions. So we do have some extra land down there that was donated by the Priors, so we're going to look at putting trails down through there. So it was a whole bunch of moving parts, some land transfers, some what do we exactly want. So I think we're in the right direction to get something that the community really needs and wants and will enjoy.
Thank you, Jamie, for that update. And Patrick?
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, I might just add, and thank you, Jamie. Just looking at that project specifically, so the number that it shows as available funds, like unspent right now, is 136, almost 137,000. Next year, that you'll see or you've seen in the capital budget, there's another $30,000. That includes our $10,000 commitment through the 50/50 program from a couple years back before I was here. You guys would maybe remember that, and then 20,000 that Jamie identified as additional funding requirements. So in total, there'll be 167,000 there. It's like Jamie said, it's going to be a pretty incredible project with the majority of funds coming from either development charges or the Rotary Club donations.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing the lookout when it comes. But we don't know what it looks like yet. Got it. Further questions on this? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 9.21. Resolution moved by Councillor Reid, second by Councillor Martin, that Council of the Township of Mapleton support consent application B6825 and B6925 as presented on lands described as Part Lot 18, Concession 12, with the conditions, the normal conditions that we have, and then the further that Council authorizes the Planning and Development Manager to file with Secretary Treasurer of the Planning and Land Division Committee at the County of Wellington, a letter of clearance of these conditions on completion of the same. Questions on this? All in favor? It's carried. So item number 10, which is approval of bylaws. This one here is bylaw number 2025, being a bylaw for the establishment and maintenance of reserve funds, whereas the municipality may establish reserves to facilitate better financial management and accountability, and whereas Section 417 of Municipal Act 2001 allows the municipality to provide for the establishment and maintenance of reserve funds for any purpose for which it has the authority to spend money. And whereas a corporation of the Township of Mapleton operates several reserve and reserve funds, and whereas the authority for such reserves and reserve funds and for the purpose for which they are established ought to be clear in all cases, and whereas it is deemed expedient to consolidate the authority of all reserve and reserve funds into one bylaw, now therefore the Council of the Township of Mapleton enacts as follows: that the reserve and reserve funds as outlined in Schedule A of this bylaw be established, and that the balances of existing reserves and reserves funds be redistributed as per the schedule set out in the Reserve and Reserve Fund Bylaw Update Report dated November 11, 2025, and this being read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this Tuesday, the 11th day of November 2025. Any questions on that? All in favor? That's carried. So, moving on to item number 11. This is for council's direction. You have the 11.1, which is that moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Reid, that Township Mapleton Council receive for information the report of the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry entitled Critical Ground, Why Soil is Essential to Canada's Economic, Environmental, Human, and Social Health, and that Council endorses the committee's learnings, that soil delivers ecosystem services that enable all life on Earth, such as water purification and storage, climate and flood regulation, nutrient cycling, carbon sequestration, the provision of food, fiber, fuel, and construction materials, habitat for organisms, and the foundation for human infrastructure and cultural heritage. And further, that Council supports the committee's 28 recommendations aligned with their objective to better understand the state of soil health and its evolution. And further, a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Standing Committee of Agriculture and Forestry, the Honorable Senator Robert Black, the Honorable MPP Matthew Ray, the Honorable Michael Chung, the Honorable Minister Trevor Jones, all municipalities within the County of Wellington, the Wellington Federation of Agriculture, and the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. Questions from Council? Comments? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Greg. I see your the senator is on a first-name basis with you in his letter.
We did sit on county council for 2 years together.
This was actually a really terrific read, to be honest. I don't know if you call it a sober second thought, or it's great to see that there's being work, that there is work being done on this side of thing. So often, especially the last few years, we have this, provincial mandate for growth. It's quite arbitrary, and it's just arguably being shoved down our throats whether we want it or not. And, it kind of just shows it's yet another reason for the work that our planning department does through, various plans that the growth needs to be thoughtful and needs to protect the agricultural lands that we have, which is Mapleton, right? That's the majority of our land is prime ag land. So I just found it to be a very compelling read, and I'd love to support it.
Thank you. I agree with you. I know I went through it myself and the 25 recommendations, and as you stated, Mapleton, we are farmland. It's our #1 industry we have here, and we have to protect it as much as we can. And I know Senator Black, growing up in the Fergus area and knowing farmland himself, going to University of Guelph as he did, and learning about soils. So he's well-versed in soils, not just in Ontario anymore, but right across the country and other parts of the world. So really appreciate that the senator reached out to us to support his and the Senate's recommendations here. Anything further? Councilor Woodham.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. I was just wondering, all of our reports always have financial impact summary and strategic plan pillars, where we always reflect back and seeing how, if we were vigilant on asset management, prospering, diversified economy, et cetera. I'm just wondering, since again, to reiterate what Councillor Martin was saying, we are prime ag, we are ag. Is this something now that perhaps we can incorporate in, and that when we bring something forward, we also put that lens on it of taking into consideration?
Certainly something to consider for future strategic plans that we have. And we're always cognizant of, in the community, of where we live. I know that Manny and I have had many conversations about where we live, and we know that we need to grow. We know we need to have housing here. We also know we need to protect our farmland as much as possible, as everyone around this horseshoe and everyone and the other staff do as well. So I think that's already being done, just not something that's written down. It's something that we've always thinking about and thought about. So maybe in the next iteration of the strategic plan, it should be actually written right into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, if that's okay, Manny. Just that there's a specific piece within the strategic plan that talks about the prosperous and diversified economy, and specifically conducting detailed evaluations of the provincial housing mandate. I think if that would, at least as far as this strategic plan goes, covers that, like you're saying, without changing anything in the strategic plan until the next one.
Anything further? Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The one recommendation that I particularly enjoyed was number 22, that talks about providing financial support for and encouraging the development of programming in elementary and high schools to enhance awareness and understanding of the environmental, social, and economic contributions that agriculture brings to our country. I think a lot of the change that we're going to see is obviously going to come from our kids, who are hopefully going to be stronger and smarter than we are. And, it's our kids here have a strong appreciation, like they know where their food comes from, that it's not a Loblaws truck, that it actually gets grown somewhere. And I think that important piece and the awareness and education could go a long way, locally and nationally. So
I don't disagree with you there. I know that speaking, when we have meetings in Toronto, we talk to staff down in Toronto. A lot of them never left Toronto. They've never been to a rural community, and often we invite them to come and visit Mapleton and visit the rural communities. You're going to make policies for all of Ontario, you might as well come out and visit a rural community, and we always put that olive branch out to invite them out here, because you're right, the education, this is a great piece, that's a great spot to teach, and our local kids, they grow up here, they know about where the food comes from, but that's not everywhere in the province or in Canada when they get into the big cities. So, anything further? All in favor? It's carried. Next one up is 11.2, moved by Councilor Reid, second by Councilor Martin, the Township of Mapleton Council receive for information Wellington County Councilor Mayor Davidson's report to Mapleton Council entitled October 2025 County Report to Mapleton Council. Any comments or questions on that, Councilor Reid?
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to again thank you for this report. It's an appreciation to see what's going on at the county at our level. I'm just wondering if maybe you want to speak to the ending of the speed cameras.
I don't know if I should speak to the ending of the speed cameras. It is unfortunate that the Premier and the government has decided to end the program when it has done, well, it has shown itself to be very effective at slowing vehicles down. And not only in our community, but in the communities across Ontario that have been using it. There might have been some communities that have been misusing it, but that's no reason to get rid of the whole program. And not just my opinion, but others' opinions as well. There was ways the government could have changed things in the current program that they developed. It's their program. They could have changed a number of things to, like lowering the fines or setting the thresholds. They could have done all those in their policies, but instead they decided to toss the whole thing out, which is very unfortunate. So yeah, that's something that's on the 14th of this month, it'll be shut down. But we are going to keep the cameras in place, and we're going to monitor the traffic in those zones that we currently have them in for the next foreseeable future to see, you know, how traffic behaves afterwards as well. Then maybe with that data, we can go back to the province and say, here you go. My conversation with the Minister of Transportation, as well as the Premier, as well as MVP Ray, they're going to provide funding, apparently, that are going to put in for signs and for speed bumps and all the rest. Some of those things may work. If you look at our spot here in Drayton, we already have digital speed signs. We already have all kinds of, in fact, you pass about 7 signs telling you what speeds and everything else, and you still have the camera there and people were still speeding. So I don't know how more signs are going to work, but this is what the province decides, and we'll have to go with it and see what happens. But that's why we're leaving the cameras up and going to monitor the speeds, see if there is a difference from what the province has. You know, the county's already working on the signs that are going to be required, so they'll be put up rather quickly. Thank you. Anything further? Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor, and following up on that, yeah, just a comment that it certainly did change behavior. I drive that piece all the time, and that's, you know, people are naturally slowing down just as a habit now. I wondered, the money that the county is getting as a profit from those cameras, the percentage that the county is getting, is it being distributed to each municipality on a percentage or prorated basis to do traffic control to what we want, or is the county going to legislate what's done?
Well, it's a county-run program, and it was for county roads, and that's where the majority of our speeding problems are, on the county roads where the most traffic is. So they've already put in place for the first bit. So the policy was that monies received from January 15th, when we installed the cameras, until the end of June, those monies would go into the 2026 budget for specific programs. I think I laid them out in there. And that's $4 million, but then we still have the other monies that we can still utilize, and we're looking at what can we do to use that money for not only, as I said in the report, there's 2 intersections that have a lot of crashes, a lot of injuries and stuff. So that's, you know, we're looking at this for school zones, but those are other zones we can utilize that money for. And that's what we are doing to try to save lives elsewhere. But we also need to look at these specific zones. How can we change the behavior or continue having the behavior the way it is now with the cameras in place? Can we utilize that money to make any changes there? So we're going to be thinking through that as well in the next little while. But the $4 million, we don't know what the end amount will be after the 14th, but it's probably going to be at least another $4 million. So we're going to see what that money brings for doing things on the roads that have the speed cameras in right now. Anything else? Councilman?
I wasn't going to talk about automated speed enforcement. I was going to talk about these trucks up on your road section. I do appreciate the overall report. Speed cameras, I got a lot of time for the public safety argument, Mr. Mayor, that you make. I also have a lot of time for the opposite side of the argument, because I do think it's pretty clear that across the province, these things were treated differently. And it's potentially, very much a revenue generator, fronting as a public safety initiative. Because there's countless councils now you read of that are going like, well, we had this money budgeted to go for this project and that project that wasn't coming off the levy anymore. So I think it will cause some councils to reprioritize some of the projects with this revenue stream closing down. But so yeah, I don't know. I flip-flop day to day. I'll probably still crack a beer on the 14th when this shuts down. But I do think that, you have a legitimate argument as well on the flip side. So the question I had, though, was around the very first paragraph. Mr. Mayor, you talk about the county purchasing vehicles. Looks like some pretty aggressive pricing. Is this something that, I know at times we do like group purchasing. I don't know if it happens all the time. Is this something that we contemplate during, this might be more of a public works question, around when we are, if we're one out looking for a grader, for example, in 26, or other vehicles that, whether it's the upper tier or partner municipalities may have. Is this something we regularly contemplate or have conversations about, or it is kind of like this is kind of last minute, like if we're needing something, I'm assuming for this current year, but what sort of pre-planning do we do? Is that something we look at or no?
Yeah, so I'll just speak to that first, and then I'll turn it over to Jamie for any comments that he has. So when the county does a lot of procurement like this, they will try to make it available to the lower tiers as well, especially for vehicles. So that's what they've done in this spot here. So they offer it to other municipalities, just in case they are also looking for vehicles at that time. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie to whether they give you a heads up on this, or how does that work on your end?
Through you, Mayor Davison, we generally just do our own thing. Pricing that we put out with our tenders, and when we put tenders out, we get fleet pricing, so it's very similar to the counties. You cannot buy pickup trucks on Canoe, which we have used now for backhoes and excavators. So our pricing through fleet is very similar, and when we put it out, we used to just put it out locally. Now we use bids and tenders. So we use that process. Now, the last round we got for our pickups, we got 12 different dealerships bidding on our pickups. And so we get through it. We get very similar pricing. Our trucks come in, like our half tons come in at like 55,000 in our 1 tons that we buy. Yeah, they come in very similar to the county pricing. The county probably uses Canoe the same as we do, and that's for graders and all that stuff. So it's all set pricing. It's all set. We maybe have different timelines when we do it. So if we could see some big savings, if we were paying a lot more for a pickup in comparison or a 1 ton, we would definitely jump on board, because we do look at opportunities. An example, I'll go outside the pickup truck for that. We actually jumped on the county's salt purchasing this year, and we probably saved $10 a ton. Like we would be paying $110 a ton for road salt, and we jumped on that and we saved $10 a ton. So we do work back and forth with the county on certain things where we can see we can find savings, and those all come up at our road supers meeting. So yeah, we would definitely look at that if there was potential. So,
Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, Jamie hit pretty much everything on the head. The only piece I would add is not just specifically piggybacking with the county. That Guelph Cooperative Purchasing Group that we're a member of. Amon sits on that cooperative purchasing group on our behalf. So this is pickups like Jamie said specifically, but any bid opportunity, anything we're going out to the market with that somebody else is, there's piggyback clauses on those that we can jump on them. So that's a specific provision that we added within the procurement bylaw this time around to update it, that any chance we get to get on one of those where it's already in our budget and advantageous for us to do it, we're going to jump on it.
And just to add to this, so the county did go out and put this out to a number of dealerships. It wasn't through a canoe, it was whatever the dealerships were, and only one dealership actually returned, and this is the cost from that one dealership. So, anything further on that report? All in favor? It's carried. Now we get on to number 12, which is correspondence. Mr. Clerk, again, treated us with 13 of them. Anybody have any questions or wish to speak to any of the 13? That's a clerk's favorite number, by the way. Nothing, okay. Moving on to item number 13, which is the notice of motion. Councilor members, I did put a notice of motion on the floor. Oh, that's on 15, sorry. Oh, yeah, we're missing 13, so down to 15, sorry, 15.1. Thank you. So the resolution or motion on the floor was, whereas residents of the Township of Mapleton recognize the service of Canadian veterans who have served in the armed forces, and whereas many communities across Canada have implemented street naming programs to honor deceased veterans to ensure that their contributions are remembered by future generations, and whereas the naming of street names or new streets in honor of deceased veterans in the Township of Mapleton would serve as a lasting public tribute for both residents and visitors. Therefore, be it resolved that council directs staff to develop a veterans street naming program for the purpose of naming future municipal roadways after deceased veterans who had a connection to the Township of Mapleton. And that's number 2, staff work with the local chapter of the Royal Canadian Legion and any other historical society to select the names. And 3, that staff report back to council with the criteria and eligibility requirements for the honorees. And 4, that the municipality formally recognize street names under this policy through appropriate signage with the poppy symbol. And this is moved by myself, and Councilor Reid is going to second this. So questions from council members on this or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you. It's a great resolution, and yeah, I heartily agree with this. Do we know if there are any streets that are already named after any veterans currently? Just
So there'll be some that will be, like if it's a Davidson Street or something that would be in there, but this, the staff would work with the Legion and work with the historical societies to figure that out and then come back with a list. I know the Legion's already working on a list, and Mary Miller gave me names that are up on the banners and that are at the cenotaph already, so I'm going to pass that on to the CAO after this meeting, and then they'll work from there. Anything further? Councilor Martin?
No, I'd just like to say I enjoy this notice of motion, and your timing's impeccable. So I like it.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That was on item 15. Is there any other business that anybody would like to bring up? Maybe Councillor Ottens, you'd like to talk about the event that just happened?
yeah, the cyber safety evening. We had a really good turnout. 30, 35 people were there. We were crammed nicely in there. Carl was there as well, and You agree that that was a very effective presentation, kind of lots of good questions. There was parents, grandparents, youth workers. Yeah, it was eye-opening and a little frightening. I'm glad I don't have kids that age, but I have
Okay.
grandkids, so.
And Carl, did you wish to add anything to that? Because you were there and it was good, okay. It was thumbs up from Carl, that's all we need from Carl. Anything else from council? Okay, we'll move on to item number 17 then, which is confirmatory bylaw. Moved by Council Reed, second by Council Martin, that bylaw number 2025-053, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of the council, the corporation of the Township of Mapleton, be hereby ready first, second, and third time, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the corporate seal. All in favor? That's carried. We are adjourned.